And this is a win-win for me really, because I can talk about my business acumen and what I've done over the years and share a bit of information with you guys. And thankfully last year I've taken on a number of students over the years for projects as well from Dermot, from the business school, that have helped me on my different projects over the years as well. So one of you might be looking at me today and hopefully be employing you when you finish your course. So I took one guy on last year, which is James Bird. He was in, was it last year's? Yeah. He finished last year and graduated with a 2-1. I asked Dermot for the best student, and he put him in front of me, and I took him on in June last year. I've just nominated him for Young Business Person of the Year, which he's been shortlisted for with the Sheffield Chamber of Commerce as well. So really proud of him. So this isn't just about me coming and preaching and talking rubbish to you guys. I'll tell you what I've done. Hopefully it gives you a bit of another reason why you should engage with the business community as well. And the reason why I engage with you guys is because I enjoy sharing some of my knowledge, and hopefully you guys go on to do some great things as well. And if you take one bit of advice from me, then that'd be cool. So my name's Richard Mills. I started off as an entrepreneur pretty much from 16. I set up my first business at that time, which was a telecoms business that actually, well, was a bit before that, but I started off, somebody come to me with an idea and I said, well, that's pretty cool. And without any research and without having any of your ability of understanding business plans, I liked the idea and thought, hey, I'll back this, I'll get involved. And I must have only been about 17. And it was plug-in air fresheners, which 20 years ago were quite novel. I was in sort of telecoms at the time, so why I went off and suddenly like these plug-in air fresheners, I haven't got a clue, but I just thought they were cool. And the idea was like the Glade ones where you just plug them into a wall and the smell comes out, the aroma. There wasn't anything like it on the market at that point. The guys told me it was patent pending, which I thought, yeah, that's cool, we've got some IP on this. And even at 17, I sort of half knew what that was all about. I started selling them, I bought 10,000 off him or something like that. And my idea was to go around businesses selling these plug-in air fresheners for $10.99. And actually I found a clipping from a newspaper where I started trying to sell them in the newspapers to people, you know, like buy one of these for $9.99 or whatever it was at the time. It's really faded now, that's how long it is. But it's nice to see your first bit of sort of PR or whatever that you go out there and do. Unfortunately, Glade brought one out about 3 months later, and I was stuck with about 8,000 of these air freshening products, which didn't do me great. But at 17, you don't really care. I think the idea of being an entrepreneur and doing things, you take risk. So when you're buying these types of things, I must have only spent about $5 grand or something like that at the time, which was obviously a large amount of money to me, but actually the life learning that I've taken from that first mistake has probably put me in good stead now at Forte. So don't be frightened of making mistakes, and don't be frightened of going into business too early. I think Dermot's side and the business school are obviously giving you skills that help you make the right decisions, and that's how you should see it really, is all the courses that you're doing are about giving you new skills and a new understanding of how to do things correctly. And if not correctly, we all learn by making mistakes. You understand why you're making the mistakes. I think that's the difference when you're doing what you're doing. And I think them sort of decisions give you character. I was always like cheeky, and I've always been a salesman. So for me, a smile and having some character has always got me through in business. I think you can be useless, you can be not the most intelligent, but I think if you're smiling and you're able to engage with people, then that makes all the difference in business. And if you can sell, I'd say the major thing, I'm a salesperson, and I'm proud to say I am. A lot of people use the word salesman as if it's a bad word or something like that, but if you can't sell something, then you've got no chance in business. You can be an accountant, you can be whatever, but if you can't sell your idea to your colleagues, other people in the organisation or to others, then you're not going to get very far. So I moved on to telecoms, and believe it or not, there just used to be one phone company in this country called British Telecom. There was no other competition or anything like that. And I saw something at the age of about 19 that I thought was pretty interesting, that there was going to be competition to British Telecom. And I thought, I want a bit of that. And it was all about timing. I think that's the other thing you'll learn about my career. It's all about timing. telecoms, everybody was sick of paying British Telecom's price because it was a regulated body. This company come along called Mercury that said, you put this box in your building to a business and you'll save 25% off your phone bill. All I had to do is go around these businesses and convince them that putting this giant box that was about this big in their telecoms room would save them 25% off the phone bills. I was brand new, I was fresh to it, you know, basically they used to dump me on an industrial estate, huge things, you know, like, I don't know, hundreds of different businesses on there, and they'd say, right, go and cold call and canvass every single one of them businesses, and knock on the receptionist's door, say, hi, I'm Richard Mills, I'm from Sheffield Telecom, or whatever it was called. I'd like to talk to somebody about your telephone system and saving you some money in the company. Now, bearing in mind, I had to do this perhaps 100 times in a day, going around there trying to charm the receptionist, say, hi, I'm Rich, you know, trying to build up a bit of a rapport with them, trying to get the details, find out how old it was, and all of that sort of stuff. It was time consuming. And I don't know if it's just I work smarter than everybody else. I believe in this 80-20 rule that 20% of what you do should achieve 80% of your results, not doing 80% to achieve 20%. I've always lived my life like that. I don't think it makes sense to do it the other way. And because I am super smart, I designed something that was like a database. It was an Excel spreadsheet. Because I'd chosen my career, I was going to be involved in telecoms and I was going to rule the world. I was focused on this is what I was going to do. So what I did when I was calling on all of these businesses, and this was 20 years ago, was create an Excel spreadsheet that said, this is the company name, this is how old the telephone system is, this is what they've got, this is the decision maker, just a simple database. And what I ended up doing is creating a huge database because I was doing 100 calls a day and created this database, and I could filter it by how old the telephone system was, who the decision maker was, when it was up for a renewal, how big it was, and how the company was growing. So I'd put, every time I phoned them, every 3 months or whatever else it might be, started updating the information, and as I got more information about them, I found it much easier. And what all the other salesmen wasn't doing at that time was they were just going back over the old ground and calling on, you know, the same companies and asking the same questions. I just thought that didn't make sense. I had this wonderful database that just kept producing me lead after lead. All I had to do was say, hi, can I speak to John Smith? I'd like to come and talk to you about your telephone system. I know it's 5 years old. Bang, you're in. And that was really why I was so successful, and I did really well in that. I was then headhunted, as you are. If people notice you're good and you're making waves, competition notice it. You know, I had competitors phoning up trying to poach me to go and work for them because they saw they were losing deals to me. So they all wanted to know the secret. How was I so good? Why was I making so much money? And why was I selling so many of these telephone systems? And it was just about the database side of it, of course, and obviously my charm. The thing that went on, it went on to, believe it or not, you know, how many of you use LinkedIn? Just put your hands up if you use LinkedIn. Still not huge.
No.
Well, you're missing out. The guys that don't use it, you're really missing out. So I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. But I was headhunted to go and work for this thing called the internet. There was an American company coming over to Europe that wanted to start selling the internet. Basically, again, it's all about time. It's all about building your own personal brand. I think that's how you've got to look at yourselves. Over a longer period of time, think about your own brand, think about your own databases and connections and things like that, because you're starting off now. Can you imagine how great you will be in 10 years' time and how big your database of clients and contacts and all that sort of stuff? You've got to take the longer term game, you know, not the short term wins and things like that. And it's the same with LinkedIn. For those that don't know about it, it's basically what I used to do in terms of cold calling, walking around an industrial estate for 8 hours a day trying to get information. You can do it all on the internet now through LinkedIn. And it's for business people, it's like the Facebook of the business world. People use it to hook up. Now, this has just opened the world to me. I can talk to the chairman of Boots or the MD of whatever, Manchester United, whoever it might be. You can get to people in the business world with one email now. Whereas before I had to walk around the industrial estate, I had to phone them up, I had to try and get the information. It's all online now. saved me. We're talking about this 80-20 rule. That overnight changed the way I did business and made it really possible for me to really excel myself. I went into this thing called the internet. The guy said, look, we've seen you doing really well. You're young, we need somebody young selling this internet thing into Europe for us. And it was a company called Sprint. They're the biggest ISP in the world, US company. Anybody that uses the internet, probably half of all internet traffic in the world goes over their network. They're the biggest. And I sell to customers like British Telecom, Cable and Wireless, NTL, Virgin, whoever else it might be that you might have heard of. They all use Sprint to deliver the internet to your homes or your phone or whatever else it might be. I was the first person to sell it into Europe for them. I was going to people like BT saying, I think you need IP, I think you need the internet. And they're going, well, we might take 2 meg, which is now what you guys probably have at home or wherever you are. They didn't see it happening, and I didn't really see it happening at the time. So again, it's all about timing, but I think you make your timing, you make your luck as an entrepreneur. If you're doing well and treat it as yourself and that you want to excel in life, people will come looking for you rather than you having to go and look for anything else in the world. I think being around the internet and Microsoft and Google and all these people I'd worked with in the US made me think differently as well. So I've got one of these creative brains that invent stuff. So although I'm a salesman, I've actually invented some products that have done pretty well as well. So my first product was, the first successful one was a company called Swellaway. It's basically, if any of you have ever twisted your ankle or your knee and had to go grab a bag of peas or something like that to take the swelling down, it happened to me in a football match where I twisted my knee. And I just thought, well, I'll put a bag of peas on my knee there and try to get the swelling down. And I just thought, surely there's an easier way of doing this. So I invented a product called Swellaway. And what it does, it's an electronic wrap. It goes around any part of your anatomy. And electronically, you can just say, go cold, and it goes cold electronically. So as cold as a bag of peas. It can also go warm, so we can do hot and cold treatment. And it also does compression. And I think the reason I'd been as successful as I had been is because I realised that I couldn't do everything myself. So I'd always surround myself around a good team. So when it was in telecoms, I had a good finance director, I had a good technical team, good engineers, all of that sort of stuff. And when I come up with this idea for Swellaway, I've got no degree in physiological makeup and how we work as humans and things like that. I just realised by putting something cold on your skin, it'll take the swelling down. So then I employed Sheffield University to help me develop the prototype, and this was 5 years ago. Then I needed some money to get this idea off the ground once I'd built a prototype. So I thought, well, who could help me on this in terms of quite well financed, good marketing, somebody who can help me move the product further forward. And I contacted, the first person I contacted, I'll not mention him, but another person I contacted was Wayne Rooney, England captain and Manchester United captain. And I thought, well, look, this product, he plays football a lot, so he's obviously going to be interested in my product. I've seen pictures of David Beckham and Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney with bags of ice attached to them with compression on with cling film. So surely he'll understand that he's obviously got some money that he earns quite a decent wage. And obviously he'll understand the benefits of the product, and plus it gives me lots of marketing help as well in terms of launching a product to a global brand when you think about Wayne. So I approached him, given my business plan. I had to go in front of their board of directors and say, hi, I'm Richard Mills, I've got this product called Swellaway I've invented, it's patented, I've got everything, here's the prototype, test it out, please invest in me. I wanted a few $100,000 off them. And they said, yeah, so that was 2-3 years ago. It's grown since then. Today we've had 2 rounds of extra funding put into the business. It's probably valued at about $2.5 million today. I'm just a shareholder now. I've stepped back from the business and let them run it so I can concentrate on my next venture, which is Sleep Cognac. At the same time as doing Swellaway, I think the thing is, for an entrepreneur, it's very difficult because you get ideas all the time. And me, I'm a bit of a doer. So when I think of something, I think, I'll do it. And I've come up with loads of different ideas over the years, but it's about focus. And what I've done is for each business idea I've put a business plan at the side of it. And what a business plan helps you do is validate your idea, talking to a few people, looking at other products and competition out there. And I've got a book full of different ideas and products. And what it tends to happen, what has happened over the years, is they've sort of developed themselves. Every time I see some PR or a story about the same product or the same problem or the same situation. So every time I saw an injury to David Beckham or Michael Owen, or I saw some, there's been golfers using ice packs and things like that. I kept saving all of that information. And things about rehabilitation times and clinical data. Over the years, I just add that to each of the business ideas that I've got, and eventually it just takes off into a different stratosphere. It takes a life of its own. Dermot will probably want me to mention that I own some restaurants as well. Again, this is a bit of a spin-off really, because I travelled the world first class really, eating some of the greatest restaurants in the world. But I'm really passionate about organic food and dining. And I always thought when I come back to Sheffield it was rubbish for eating out and eating decent food. So I thought, well, rather than talk about it, I'll open a restaurant. And my goal and ambition was to create a jazz club in Sheffield that had Michelin standard food that also played amazing, great music for jazz artists. And I created something called the Walnut Club, which is, it's been closed a couple of years now, but it was based out in Hathersage. Got pretty famous. If you Googled it, it got into the Michelin Guide. It did really well, and this was just about as the credit crunch happened in 2010. I had it for 6 or 7 years, and I just did it out of passion really, and wanting to do something myself. And again, I'm not a chef, but what I knew I could do is go and attract one of the top chefs in the world to come and work for me. So there was a guy called Jean-Christophe Novelli in London that was making great roads and got Michelin stars and all this sort of stuff, and his head chef was actually from the north, and I said, how about coming back up to the north and helping me with this vision about the Walnut Club, creating this beautiful dining arena and doing what we've got to do. And he basically bought into it. I then got a general manager to run it for me, and we ended up having a turnover of about £1 million, employing about 50 staff. Ended up opening a second one in Sheffield Centre on Exall Road. It just went from strength to strength, and as soon as the recession hit, it just dropped down because people stopped going out and eating in posh restaurants. That was the first thing that they held back on. And we built a few years on building this premium brand called the Walnut Club. It was all about exclusive and going somewhere where you can dine and enjoy the evening. And it might have been a few pounds more than the rest of the shithole restaurants that were out there, but it was worth it because it was organic food and quality and all that sort of stuff. So in the end, I had to get out of that because the market just fell out of that sector. Really competitive, and you're going up against all the chains now. I hate the chain restaurants, I really do, with a passion, because local restaurateurs and local food people and whatever offer a better service all round, but people just want to pay whatever they want to pay, £9.99 for a 3-course meal or whatever it might be, rather than £20 or £25. It's a really tough business. I won't want to go into it again. I did it for 6 years. It's the staff is the biggest area of that, and people don't really appreciate this. And I guess I had to be in it. I've run sales teams of 20 or 30 people. It's a nightmare. Running staff and managing staff is hard work, trust me. If you can ever be in a business that doesn't involve staff, that's the best business to be in. And it's a profitable business if it is that way. Staff is your biggest overhead in any business. In our restaurants, it was probably accounted for about 50% of our overheads were staff costs. It doesn't make it sustainable in a business like that. And you can cut staff, you can do whatever cut corners you want to do, but the end person that it affects is the customer, which then affects you. So, it's a tough business, and the chains have got it right because it's all in a bag. They don't really need a chef for it. They put it in a microwave or just warm it up or do whatever they do. Anybody can roll it out. It's the same food. It's the same crap that they give you, and people are happy eating it. So again, it's about doing things with a passion. You probably see I do things that I care about and then do them to my best of my ability. And it's not always a great thing because obviously having a true business look at it gives you real information that perhaps you should or you shouldn't do it. But I don't regret any of the decisions I've made ever. I've done quite well out of it. The current one with Swellaway, you know, on paper I'm worth over £1 million perhaps. But it's all, you know, if you're not passionate about what you do and you don't care about what you do, what's the point of getting up in the morning? I would never go and take a corporate job now because, you know, it's not the way I tick. I like doing things. I like creating new things. I like doing things that are going to change the world.